Hey, welcome everybody to Purpose Driven Vision Inspired, the podcast where we explore the powerful intersection of purpose and vision in shaping our paths to success. I'm your host, Richard Cerna, the performance strategist, and each week we will dive deep into the stories, strategies, and insights of those who have turned their passion into their purpose and vision into their reality. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a leader, or simply someone seeking more meaning in your work and life, this podcast is here to inspire, educate, and empower you to live with intention and achieve your true potential. Let's embark on this journey together by introducing our esteemed guest, Kyle Brookes, who is the CEO and founder of Excaliburr. But first, let's start out with a definition of what imposter syndrome is, because this is the topic that we're diving into today. So the modern dictionary will say that imposter syndrome is the persistent inability to perceive that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. And that's a mouthful, right? So if we think about how can we simplify that, let's make it easy. So in simple terms, to me, what imposter syndrome means is when you doubt your own skills and successes. With that said, I'd like to kick the ball over to your court, Kyle, and get your perspective and your thoughts on what imposter syndrome means.
Well, Coach, thank you so much. Firstly, it's an honor to be here. Thank you. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
From my perspective, imposter syndrome is, again, like the dictionary said, not believing that you are worth what it is that you have achieved or the success that you have achieved. And for some people, that may be because they're actually working along their purpose and things come easily to them. But that's what they don't realize. Just because something comes easy to you doesn't mean that it's not moving along with the desired result or path to success that you truly have.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting because there's so many people that have gotten comfortable, have gotten accustomed to easy is good. And
Right.
we know that not to be true, right? So I'd like to start exploring this a little bit. And the reason that I asked you to come onto this is because I've personally witnessed the dramatic change and rise in your career. And I'm a huge fan and I think the world of you. So I'd like to start out by asking you, can you share a personal experience with imposter syndrome and how it has impacted your life or career?
Of course. It's a very interesting topic and a very interesting conversation because I never ever truly believed that I was ever going to achieve this success. I always viewed my mind as going to a specific point in time, but coming from a third world country and a country that's not in this perspective, you don't actually get to see things from this perspective. So when I started out, I left school in grade 10 and got into an engineering field. I was around a lot of people that had degrees, that were degreed engineers. And eventually what happened was, because I was outworking them, I got promoted to being a programmer, and then from the programmer into a technical manager and engineering manager. But being in that role, having people that are truly much more educated than me, I felt that I was lacking and didn't deserve that success. Until it came time for me to put that knowledge that I had to the test and be in front of customers. And when you realize that it's just moving through the uncomfort of where you are right now, like breaking in a new pair of shoes, you get to learn that it's acquiring the new person that you are. It's you have to be something before you can have something, is my perspective. And it takes time to be that person and to change your identity.
That's right. Yeah, and it reminds me of that adage. I think it's be, do, have. That's the order, right? Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
so in order to have something, you have to be something, you have to do something, and then you can
Precisely.
have something, right? You can't have it. It doesn't work in any other order, right? So
Yes.
that's powerful. Thank you for sharing, Kyle. I think about that, and this is a common term that I use in the professional world and what I think our followers are going to hear quite often. And that's out of the frying pan and into the fire. And
Yes.
and that's taking action, right? So you truly learn more and or so much about yourself whenever you put yourself in that high pressure position. And I think you've
Mhm.
said it best is, what does pressure do to coal, right?
Precisely.
And yeah, it
Turns
turns
into
coal into,
diamonds.
that's right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, the more that we challenge ourselves to improve or overcome and step through that comfort zone and face that man in the mirror that often creates that self-doubt and imposter syndrome, the more we'll come out on the other side, better than what we were before. So
Yes,
that's
sir.
awesome. So in thinking about that, when did you first realize that you were dealing with imposter syndrome, and what was that moment like for you?
Takes me back to South Africa, sitting in an office with the three people that were reporting to me. It came to me when there were things that were outside of my depth. They were challenged. I was being challenged on, and
Mhm.
from my perspective, I didn't have the knowledge, but I knew how to acquire that knowledge or who to talk to
Mhm.
acquire that knowledge, and taught me that I didn't have to know everything, but also I needed to be able to position myself in a way that I was protected and
Mhm.
prepared. By coming up lacking and falling short, that's when you understand that yes, there are levels to this game of life as well as engineering. And
Yeah.
by stepping into the next level, you're going to realize that you're a fish out of water. You don't really realize how to do things or how to go beyond where you are. And that moment in time taught me that education is going to make you a living,
Mhm.
but self-education is going to make you the fortune, and not
Yeah.
just fortune from a wealth perspective, but fortune as in value.
Yeah. And I think one thing to highlight, and I think we can agree on this, is regardless if it's, self-education, if it's formal education, if you don't do with anything with it, it's just knowledge. It doesn't become wisdom through your experiences, right? So
Precisely.
you read something, you put it on the shelf and you leave it there. We need to take action. If we're going to spend the time to read and learn something, we need to turn around and apply it immediately, right? So
Yep.
that's
I,
outstanding.
I call that turning shelf help into self help.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I like that. Very good. So I consider you a high achiever. I like to think of myself in many of the brothers that we have in our society, and professionals that we get to surround ourselves with, high achievers. But why do you think it's so common, especially among high achievers, to experience imposter syndrome?
That is a fairly easy question.
Yeah,
What could I have done better? Why
yeah,
why am I not there? As soon as you reach one goal, you realize that there's more to it. It's about learning and then knowing that when you know something, you don't know as much as you truly think you do. And then you
yeah,
want to learn more and more. And that comes to people that want to consistently improve. We don't stop to smell the roses. We're like, there's a next finish line and there's a next finish line. So it puts you in a perspective of I'm not as good as I want to be or where I want to be. And that it's an internal value that pushes you to be more driven and to perform better. But if you don't stop to review and see how far you've come, like you've said in one of our
yeah,
podcasts before, is that
yeah.
you need to look back and say and celebrate those successes. Not resting on your laurels though, but
That's right.
celebrate those successes and understand that you have taken yourself to a new level and now
Mhm.
you're building on top of that new foundation.
Love it. Yeah. I was wondering if you were going to get to that, and you certainly did, and I appreciate that because you're right. So many people, they want to continue achieving, and that's ambition, right? And there's nothing wrong with having ambition, but what's wrong is not acknowledging what you have accomplished. There's a great book called The Gap and the Gain, and it's by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And they focus in that book, they talk a little bit about our perspectives and how we see ourselves. And
Mhm.
oftentimes when people live in the gap, all they're seeing is what they haven't done yet. And when you're living in the gain, you get to look back at what you have done, what you've done well, what you haven't done well, what's happened to you, and you change the perspective in which your life, right? You see those occurrences happening, whether they were good, bad, ugly, and different.
Yes.
But that's outstanding. Thank you. I appreciate that. So kind of along that, in terms of as we go into understanding imposter syndrome, what are some signs or symptoms from your perspective of imposter syndrome that people might overlook, that they might not even realize is they're experiencing and they're doing to themselves?
Being anxious in certain situations that they should technically be comfortable in, shying away from speaking up when they've got something to say, and not being fully present, I would say. Because you feel like you don't deserve to be in the current position, you shy away and you almost corner yourself, and you don't want to partake in whatever the occurrence is that's truly happening. And by doing that, you put yourself, and it becomes a self-perpetuating prophecy, because now you feel like you don't deserve to be there. And what happens? You're shying away from actually performing, and therefore you will either get fired, put back, or something along those lines, because of the fact that you've hindered yourself. You've smothered the fire, like you would have said to us on a
Yeah.
numerous times, smothered the fire of who you truly are, and you stop producing any value.
That's right. We've got to make sure we never put that lid on our fire, right? That I've mentioned before, and it's so true. We can't stop being who we are. Um, you know, there's some upbringings where you're taught not to express yourself, but I find that creates those behaviors that often suppress who we are, and it's so important to speak up, to dive in, and to break through those walls, those barriers. That's It reminds me of a time where I was at some get together, and I had just started elevating in leadership in one of the first roles I'd ever had in work, and there was a topic that we were discussing, and it had to do with team, right? Culture and team and culture. And I'm very passionate about that. I mean, when I say passionate, I get super stoked. And I didn't want to say anything because that's kind of the upbringing I had, where it was like, you don't speak unless you're spoken to.
Right.
And I felt this energy just in my heart was beating, and doom 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 doom. And it was such I felt like I was going to pass out from the sheer amount of energy that was pumping in my body, and I couldn't help myself. I tried not to speak, and I spoke. And when I spoke, oh boy, I had so much to say, Kyle, and it just flowed. And when I finished, and I may have been speaking for 15 seconds maybe, but it felt like 2, 3 minutes.
Right.
And the feeling that came from that, it was like letting your fire breathe with
Yeah.
oxygen, right? So
Yeah.
very explosive.
Get out of the way so you can be who you truly are.
That's right. Yeah. Um, so we think about that, you know, there's often external factors that impact us and really create that imposter syndrome. And so
Mhm.
if we kind of continue with that theme, let's think about it from a society perspective, right? Just in general. If you think about societal expectations or workplace cultures and how that dynamics, changed, and how that contributes to the development of imposter syndrome, what do you believe? How do you believe that is impacting us today?
Hmm. Very interesting question. I like that question. I think that we are being conformed by other people's opinions, and
Mhm.
we are allowing, a lot of people are allowing that to become their everyday.
Yeah.
One saying from one of my favorite motivators is that other people's opinions do not have to become your reality. And if you take
Mhm.
that, and as Earl Nightingale says, if you're progressively making steps toward the worthy ideal, then you're successful. So, regardless of whatever else is coming about, your success is not based on anybody else. They may
That's
have
right.
influence on it, but as long as you are making progressive steps toward that ideal that is deemed worthy to who you are, I
Mhm.
believe that will make you successful. So, stop letting other people's opinions of you become your reality.
That's powerful, and that word "powerful" it resonates deeply with me here because You make the choice. We make the choice as people, right? Do we retain our power or do we give our power away? And
Right.
that's a clarifying moment for so many people. And I see so often where people just choose to like, here, I don't deserve this,
Yeah.
and when in actuality, you do deserve it, right?
Hmm.
Everybody deserves to hold on to their power. And
Yes.
that's part of what we're talking about today is imposter syndrome and how it holds so many people back. And so you started diving into this was a great segue actually, because I want to start talking a little bit about strategies for overcoming imposter syndrome, because I know that this, again, I've seen the growth that you've had and continue to have. I'm like, whoa, geez, I need to light a fire because I'm falling behind here. So, I want our viewers or followers to really get insight as to how do they start breaking through. And so when you think about that, what strategies have you found
Mhm.
most effective in overcoming imposter syndrome and embracing your own value?
Interesting. Step one. It's our theme this year. Who does it
Yeah,
start with?
it
Starts with
starts with
me,
me. Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And
Yes.
if you realize that you have the power, like you said, to be able to shift and pivot whenever you want to and take back your power from other people,
Yeah.
therefore you get to make those changes. But it doesn't have to happen overnight.
Yeah.
You can start,
Or will it, right? Yeah.
yes, start with small incremental steps. And then, second, the biggest thing that happened to me is you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Hmm.
So look at your
That's right.
circle. And if
Yeah.
you're spending time with people that are going to be consistently pushing you down, eventually they're going to turn you into the person that's on their level.
Yeah.
Never argue with a fool. Why?
Hmm.
Because they'll drop you down to their level and beat you with experience.
Yeah. I
So
think that.
leave. Yeah, sorry.
No, no, no. I'm sorry. You finish. Please
No.
do.
So just leave those people behind and find a way to involve yourself with people that are pushing to the next level, that are wanting to ignite that fire. We as men, we love competition, and it's friendly
Yeah.
competition. It's not
Yeah.
to push somebody down, but rather, hey, I've got to this next level, come up with
Hmm.
me,
That's
because
right.
it's that little step in front of each other that pushes us to be more at the end of the day. So, number one starts with me. Number two, change your friend circle. Make sure
Yeah.
that you're being pushed with different people. And you should be looking for 3 different types of friend groups.
Hmm.
One is people that are ahead of you, those people are your mentors. Two, people that are on the same level of you as you, those people are your friends. And then the third are people that are slightly behind you. Those people are the people that you mentor. And that's the rule of thirds that I have implemented.
Outstanding. I love that. And it reminds me of, I think it was Marcus Aurelius says, never argue with a fool, for if you do, there's two, right? Or something
Okay.
like that.
Yes.
But I am probably butchering the quote, but it's powerful. It's true, right? I mean, uh, so yeah, who you put yourself around. I gotta say, that's changed dramatically for me in my life, since becoming part of the society that we're in. And not to say that people that were in my life were not good people, but if you apply that rule of thirds, it's time to elevate. It's time to step up. It's time to put yourself around people that want to see you succeed, that want to compete, and
Yeah.
that want to have fun along the way.
Yeah. I wanna be on a ship with all of my friends, having our Bugattis in the bottom of the ship. We're going into
Yeah.
what's it called, into Monaco for the weekend. We're traveling all over the place. That's the type of lifestyle
Yeah.
that I want. And to have that lifestyle, you have to have people that are going to be like yourself, coach.
Yeah.
People that
That's right.
want to go to the next level.
So before getting too far ahead, because I certainly want to dive into that some more, is how important is self-compassion in the process of overcoming imposter syndrome? And it's a
Interesting.
two-part question. And
Yes.
how can one cultivate it?
So that is a difficult for me because I'm the hardest person that on myself, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be a very difficult situation. But a lot of the time, once you realize that you need to accept who you are right now and
Mhm.
learn to love that person, but also to be realistic of where you are. and look at the good, the bad, the ugly, and all the good parts of you that are truly going to make you a whole person. I think they call that shadow work, looking at the shadow side of you, embracing that so it doesn't bubble up, but also looking at the good and balancing both those sides. It allows you to show up fully and to not be inauthentic to who you are. Because the people that I've seen that only embrace the good, when something happens, it triggers them, then all of a sudden they become a completely different person. It's like this dragon has been let out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you learn to love who you are and learn to love the good and the bad and accept it, but look at your weaknesses as not weaknesses but opportunities to improve, you
That's
start to
right.
shift things.
Yeah. 100%. Love it. That's great. We see that day in and day out, and we call it the man in the mirror, whatever you want to call it. Um, the sheer fact of you know overcoming imposter syndrome. You said it earlier. It doesn't happen overnight. The way to cultivate it is the persistence. It's the continued effort. It's the striving. It's the going above, going beyond, and learning from, because we don't just continually ascend, we trip and fall. But where do we learn? It's not it's over. No, you get up, dust off, get back on the horse, and let's go. Right. So,
Precisely. You only
yeah,
stop learning when you die. That's what you've told me before. And
yeah,
it's
that's right.
every single learning experience is an opportunity to improve. Once
Mhm.
you integrate that learning, you've got feedback. So it has to be a loop. That's one thing that I'll tell you straight up that
Yeah,
I've realized. Maybe it's because I'm a programmer, but you have to have that feedback loop. You
yeah,
do something, you practice the behavior, you get feedback, and then you redo it. And you do it until you make progress, because practice doesn't make perfect, it makes
makes
progress.
better. Yeah, that's right. And speaking of loop, I'm going to come back to something you said earlier in types of the thirds and the type of people that you put yourself around. And so the next thing I want to dive into is you know, I'd like to ask you to expand on, you talked about mentorship. Can you talk about the role of mentorship or community in overcoming imposter syndrome? Um, and more importantly, how can others support someone that's going through it?
From the perspective that I've observed being mentored and mentoring somebody, first, honesty.
Mhm.
Be brutally honest with the person and help them to accept where they are right now. Maybe that doesn't work for everybody, but I guarantee you that once you get to be honest with where you are, you learn to accept what is happening in your life and what the traits that you have.
Yeah.
That way you can start to make slow incremental improvements on it.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest things that mentorship has done, it helps you to have a different perspective. Because if you're in a hole, you may not be able to see every single one of the steps to get out of the hole. A
Mhm.
mentor is not going to get in the hole with you and pull you out. That's not their job.
Right.
Their job is to be able to empower you and say, hey, listen, have you thought about looking to
Mhm.
your left, to your right, and maybe to the left hand corner? And then if you take those couple of steps, you make a little progress, maybe you slip back down into the hole. They give
Mhm.
you a couple more hints. They're not giving you the answers. They're
Yeah.
giving you hints. And sometimes mentors can shift your perspective within an instant, because
Yeah.
it's not the way that you have come to view yourself, because you view yourself as the person that you are right now. But how do
Mhm.
other people perceive you? How do other people
Yes.
see all of your traits, and is that really who you are? And if it's
Mhm.
not, then this gives you a clear indication of what you can work on or what you're doing really well, because that's the other
Yeah.
side.
Yep.
Most of us that are doing phenomenally, we
Mhm.
don't appreciate that, and we don't look at it from the perspective of I have this power
Yeah.
within me.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's powerful. And it makes me think of, and I'll ask you this is how many times have you heard somebody say, if you could only see what I see in you?
Countless times.
Yeah. It's like if I had a nickel for every time somebody
Yeah.
said that, I'd be a rich man, right? No.
And
Okay.
then you
Well,
keep on
yeah.
brushing it off though, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing
Right.
that we do is we brush it off because you you've got an unfair advantage on yourself. If you had to
Yeah.
battle yourself, you're with yourself 24/7. You
That's
get to
right.
see all
Yeah.
the commitments that you don't do, all
Yeah.
the things that you say you're going to do. And sometimes it's necessary to bring yourself up on those. But then
Mhm.
other times when you are actually performing at 110%, which we both do, coach, like we don't, I've never seen either of us go below 100%. It's either
Yeah.
all or nothing, which
Yeah.
you kind of helped me with
Yeah.
in the crucible. Like,
Yeah.
what are you saving it for, Brooks? Yes,
Yeah.
sir. My legs
That's
are
funny.
shot, but I don't care.
Let's go. There's more. You still have more. You still
Yes,
have
sir.
more. That's right. So in that, in the self-realization, right, the internal perspective and learning how much we have within us, right? So we talk a little bit about personal growth and mindset shifts. Just a couple of questions here. One is for you specifically, or both are, for you. But how has overcoming imposter syndrome changed your perception of success and your approach to challenges?
I view failure now as feedback. Before I used to be scared of failure. I used to be scared to take that risk, to go beyond who I was. But now any challenge that is out there, I jump 2 feet in before the challenge is even stopped. And
Hmm.
you know what that helps you to do? It helps you to realize what works, what doesn't work, and you get those experiments that shift your mindset to being radically open, as Ray Dalio says in his book Principles. And by doing that, you become so flexible. In
Hmm.
NLP, we have this saying that it's the person with the most flexible behavior that rules the system. Or
Yeah.
Darwin, when he said, it's not the strongest, it's not the fastest, it's not the fittest that survives, but
Yeah.
those who are most adaptable to change. And as
That's right.
humans, that is what we need to be, flexible and adaptable to change. And that's what I
Mhm.
think has been integrated and assimilated into my mindset now, is that I have that capability to be, what's the worst that can happen? Am I going to die?
That's right. So you've kind of answered my next question. And
Oh,
so, with that, I'd like to start wrapping things up as we reflect and we close on this episode and bigger than this episode, our lives and where we go from here. If you were to recommend, for somebody that's currently struggling with syndrome, what are the first steps that you would recommend they take to start embracing their value?
checks and balances of who you
Okay.
are right now. Write out a list of all the pros and cons of what it is to be you. And then have two or three people that you respect give you their perspective on
Mhm.
it, and make a holistic viewpoint on that. And then have goals that you would like to set and start making progress on those goals. Uh, from that perspective, what you will do is you will learn that it's literally just like wearing in a pair of shoes or learning to drive a car for the first time. Yes, it may
Mhm.
appear or seem like it's unnatural at first, but within
Yeah,
2 or 3 months, it becomes second nature. And then you're going to go through
that's
imposter
right.
syndrome again. There's levels to this game, because as you level up, so does all your challenges. So does all the aspects of who it is that you're going to become
Yeah,
also tends to
yeah,
happen.
that's powerful. So, it reminds me this, what you just shared, it reminds me of another book that Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy wrote, and it was 10x is greater than 2x. And
Okay.
everything that you just shared, the reason it reminds me of that is oftentimes when you look at 10x, and I don't want you to think of, the fad sales, people out there that are always talk about 10xing. I want you to think about when you fulfill your purpose, when you step through your purpose, when you step into who you are, how much greater your life is 360 because you're applying what you were designed to be in your life. I'm a huge advocate for you're the same person at home or at work, at church, at school, no matter where you are, you're always the same person. But
Right.
the one thing that a lot of people miss out on is they feel like they have to change who they are. They start to put the lids on themselves
Hmm.
and alter who they are, and they start getting into that 2x mindset, which is, I'm just going to get by. No,
Right.
no, we got to stop. It's
Hmm.
crucial that we stop. We step into who we are and we break through that barrier that is imposter syndrome. So I really
Right.
appreciate you breaking it down the way you did.
Can I share something with you, Coach? I think this is something that
100%.
definitely changed my perspective on this. And this is I don't know if you've heard it before. It's a poem by Miriam Williamson. It's called Our Deepest Fear.
Okay.
It goes, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask
Mhm.
ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are
Mhm.
all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
Wow. Wow. And that was Miriam. What was the last name again?
Miriam Williamson.
Williamson.
Yes.
Okay. So I want all of our viewers, followers to go out and look up Miriam Williamson and this beautiful poem that you just recited. Tell me the name of the poem one more time.
Our deepest fear.
Our deepest fear. Okay. So everybody, please go check out that poem, see how it resonates with you, and really connect with who you are inside. Remember, there's a purpose for each one of us. And it's unique. It's up to us to decide if we are going to apply that purpose in our lives. So, Kyle, looking forward, how do you continue to maintain? We're pointed at you now.
Mhm.
How do you continue to maintain a sense of self-worth and prevent imposter syndrome from creeping back in?
It's written on your shirt, coach.
That's right. Yeah, here we go.
I know you wore that for a reason.
Yes, yes. As I say, there's always a method to my madness, right? So some people see it, some people don't, and they think
Yeah.
that I got madness. But yeah.
It's continuous improvement. That
Mhm.
is how I believe that I'm going to be embracing and rebuttaling the imposter syndrome by always striving to be that 1% better. You're going to evolve as a person, and you will look back within a year or 2 years and realize that you are now 37 times or 64 times better than you were by the initial point of that first year. Because just because something comes easy to you doesn't mean that it is not that you are guaranteed to be able to want to do that. That's you fulfilling your purpose. It's the same
Mhm.
like putting in all the hard work when you're at the gym. What
Mhm.
happens eventually, you reach a plateau and then you get to the next level. And now all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more difficult. But by stopping, taking a step back, and realizing that this life is a beautiful, perfect creation that God has blessed us with and being grateful for, we allow ourselves to embrace who we are.
That's right. Wow, wow, powerful. But love to hear it. So I'd like to, from that, I think that's taken us out on a high note. And so I'd like to start closing out with, kind of a rapid fire series of questions. Some are gonna be specific to you, some are gonna be for fun, and we'll just go for let's say we go for it. Okay. So it's gonna be a
Okay.
rapid fire session.
Love it.
So let's dive in. And the objective here is to say what comes off the top of your head. Okay.
Perfect.
So what has been the most fulfilling moment in your journey so far, and how does it align with your purpose?
Starting Excaliburr coaching and truly changing men's lives. It is the most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my entire life. To see men that are not where they want to be and to slowly start to see them chip away the statue that is them. Socrates said that we are both the sculptor and the statue. The
Mm-hmm.
David that we are creating is ourselves. And it's a beautiful thing to witness, to be able to be at the back end of that and just enable them with the chisel, the hammer, and whatever else that they need. Because that's what we are. We are enablers. We help them with tools, but
Yeah,
don't do the work for them.
that's right. Powerful. So, on that note, how do you envision the future of your industry or field, and what role do you see yourself playing in it?
We'll be the number one men's development company in the world, being able to change men's lives in all facets. Well, the four pillars that make up their life, which is physical, mental, social, and financial. And we will be the change factor for those men. I will be at the top of it, creating that vision and ensuring that that gets disseminated amongst all the companies around the world or the different various branches.
And you're just like walking me up to my next questions. This is awesome. I love it. So think about it. Let's talk about, we've given our viewers and followers a little bit of insight as to what you do, but what are some upcoming projects or goals that you are excited about, and how do they align with your overall vision?
Ooh, okay. Right now, we've got collaboration between myself and Coach Demand. We're going
Hmm.
to be assimilating his mind shift course, but specifically for the Excaliburr into our application. And we're going to be co-branding that, moving that out. We've got a nutritionalist that we're also bringing on board that's going to be educating men on how to eat correctly, what sort of macros they should be eating, how to
Hmm.
get the best supplementation. Because at the end of the day, what you put in, you get out in life. And if you are truly fueling your body the correct way, you're going to have the best experience. Your body is a vehicle, and
That's
how
right.
you treat that vehicle
Yeah.
is going to determine how far you go or how quickly you can get to a specific place in life. And our goal is to make sure that everybody's vehicle is in tip top shape.
That's amazing. It sounds like you're creating a program that's very unique to each person. And I think that's amazing because if you use the car or the vehicle analogy, we're all different makes and models and years, right? And so to be able to get that specificity into each one of your clients to help them become physically, mentally, spiritually, the best version of themselves, I think that's amazing. So four more questions, and these are going to be a little easier, I think,
Okay.
to answer. So, who or what inspires you to keep pushing forward even on your toughest days?
Never will I quit on myself, my
My
family,
family,
or my brothers.
brothers.
And
Amazing.
I know that there's one or two brothers out there that are working twice as hard as me. So I'm going to make sure that I'm keeping up with them or trying to surpass them. And
Powerful.
not in a way that is pushing them back, but if I'm
Uh,
pushing, they're going to be pushing, and that means
That's
the
right.
entire, what is it called, a rising tide raises all
Hmm.
ships.
That's right. Yeah. Love it. Okay, three more. So, in one sentence, just one,
Mhm.
how would you summarize the purpose that drives you?
Impacting 100,000 men's lives before I die.
Nice. I think you're going to get well beyond that number, but that's powerful. Okay. All right. So two fun ones to close us out. What is your favorite curse word?
Interesting. You see, it's not very popular in the United States,
Okay.
unfortunately. Okay,
Okay.
there's two of them. There's one that is in Afrikaans that no one will understand besides Afrikaans, and that's poes.
Okay.
Okay, which
Yeah.
just means the C bomb in English.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And it's not calling somebody the C bomb. It's calling them a half C, because a
Okay.
full C is useful.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. That's deep. We're gonna have to explore that some other time. So I'm gonna follow up with you there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so when last question, and when you pass away, when you go to meet God at the white pearly gates, what would you like him to say to you?
Man, I designed you in a way that made me proud, and you lived
Mm,
up to it.
nice. Very cool. Well, Kyle, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to hop on Purpose Driven, Vision Inspired. The insights you provided today, I think, are certainly actionable, and I encourage our viewers to go back, watch this episode a couple of times, share it, because you'll find that imposter syndrome, no matter who you are, it creeps into all of us. And with some of the insights and strategies that Kyle has shared today, I'm more than certain that you can break through those barriers that you create for yourselves, that I create for myself, that the entire world that we create for ourselves, especially in this chaotic world we live in today. So before we go, Kyle, where can our viewers and followers find you?
Perfect. Well, firstly, it's been an honor, Coach. Thank you so much for truly having me on here. And then you guys can find us on Excaliburr Coaching on Instagram, Facebook, on TikTok, Spotify, as well as any other place that you would find your podcasts.
Outstanding. Alrighty, Kyle. Well, I'd like to send you off well, send everybody off well for the morning, afternoon, evening, whichever part of the day you get to listen to this. May your journey be safe, may it be adventurous, and may it be filled with excitement. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you.